So our trajectory really is to move security into the future, evolve it, and be that bridge for organizations that will need their legacy solutions for a while to be able to move into this new world of cloud and security.
Welcome to Powered by Snowflake, a series where I interview technology leaders building applications and businesses on Snowflake. I'm your host, Daniel Myers, and today I'm talking with Jade Catalano, security strategist at Anvilogic. Anvilogic is a modern security operations platform powered by Snowflake. Jade, how are you today?
Doing well, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you in the studio, and I want to learn more about how you got involved with Anvilogic, and in your own words, tell me what makes Anvilogic different.
Yeah, so I started at Anvilogic about a year and a half ago, coming from a big data platform company, as well as specializing in security. So really, when I started looking and working with my customers, there was large gaps over the last 10 years. Security has changed. The cloud has changed. Everything has changed. So legacy solutions aren't necessarily fitting the mold that security practitioners really need, or security operations centers. So by identifying these gaps and realizing that there was a solution out there that could actually fill this gap, and by coming together with the team that's comprised of people that have been working in security operations centers, as well as threat researchers and threat intel groups, and also the vendor side. So it's really the trifecta of people coming together to solve and really passionate about solving these security gaps.
That's exciting. So tell me about the journey that Anvilogic has gone in. Tell me about when was it founded and kind of the founding story, and how's your growth today?
Yeah, so it's super exciting. We were founded in 2019, like I said, by that trifecta group that really just wanted to come in and was so frustrated with these security problems they were facing. And so when we came together, we recently got our Series B, which is very exciting. Yeah. So our trajectory really is to move security into the future, evolve it, and be that bridge for organizations that will need their legacy solutions for a while to be able to move into this new world of cloud and security.
That is really exciting. So tell me, how does Snowflake fit into the Anvilogic tech stack?
Yeah, so when you think of a security operations center, there's a lot of moving parts. You have people, process, and technology. Typically, you have a logging platform for your SIM solutions, so your security incident and event management, which processes all of that, the alerts that are coming through. Now, what kind of breaks down a little bit is that there's so much data out there now. So whereas before we were processing small amounts of data and then we got the data we wanted, now it's just too much. And not only is it too much data, it's all in different places. So now you have data in Snowflake, you have data in legacy logging platforms, and being able to understand how that all can come together so you can actually detect, triage, and respond as you need is the important piece. Where Snowflake and Anvilogic kind of meet in the middle is being able to help bridge that gap. So if you have new cloud workloads or possibly different alert stacks that wouldn't necessarily fit in before, Anvilogic's going to go ahead and come in and search and query directly where your data lies, which is a new and unique thing because we don't need your data. Leave your data wherever you want. You can have it in legacy and Snowflake, and we're going to go ahead and normalize and query and everything where it sits, as well as bring in all of any of your other tooling and integrations like CrowdStrike or Proofpoint. And then we're going to normalize that all together. So being able to bridge that gap for Snowflake customers to look towards and evolve into this new cloud world with a hybrid solution that's enterprise ready is really exciting to us.
Yeah, that really seems like the scale that Snowflake is able to provide is something that Anvilogic is really able to take advantage of.
Exactly. I think being able to scale and being able to scale detections as well. So having detections within Snowflake scales immensely for all customers.
That's great. So can we see a demo of it today?
Yeah, I'd love to show you. So before we jump into the demo, I just want to go into that piece that I was talking about, where it is that unique part of the platform is the data agnostic, and really what that means for Snowflake customers. So when people typically have legacy solutions or data platforms, you can't just rip and replace that. That's taken a lot of time and money that's invested in that, and a lot of data. So if you have different detections in all of these places, you can't just easily feel comfortable taking those out. So being able to centralize it in one place is a really awesome place also, where Snowflake comes in, being able to centralize all of this data and make sure that it's available at scale to who needs it. When we're talking about the unified search, that's what we're talking about by querying for Snowflake data. And then we'll jump into really what this workflow looks like in Anvilogic for Snowflake. So it's kind of a 3-step process, right? To get data into Snowflake, you have Anvilogic. So first is we have a bunch of pre-defined raw data that we support, like CrowdStrike or Proofpoint or Windows, like I was talking about. You see that on the left. So a lot of our customers are people, for example, are looking at Amazon CloudTrail. Those are a lot of large data sets. And sometimes those don't necessarily work well with legacy solutions. So bringing those into something like Snowflake and your new cloud workloads really starts to build in a cost-effective way to be able to scale new workloads and then slowly also migrate some of your data that you currently have. So essentially we provide them the way to get the data in. And once it's in the S3, there's multiple ways based on what the vendor needs, but we can use Snowpipe into what we call our staging table. And in the staging table, that's where we provide the SQL code to be able to parse and normalize the data so that we can query and search and all of that, so that that's the key part to enable security operations to work correctly. So there's a lot of cloud native data that you're able to parse and normalize for the customers taking in that raw data. The important part too is being able to bring in this data. And then when you can bring in the data and normalize and parse it, a lot of times that's done within a logging platform. Analysts no longer have to go to each logging platform and do this. That takes a lot of hours. So between our step 1 and step 2, where you're actually extracting and then transforming and parsing, that takes about 10, 15 minutes, really not that much time, whereas that can take a lot longer for an analyst to do on their own. So we're gonna go ahead and do that for you. Once we parse and normalize that data for customers, we're basically transforming that data from that step 1 to step 2. And that's really important because that's where the schema for writing detection rules against that data, and that's where we have the query table. So within there, you're having out-of-the-box code as well. So you can get up and running essentially by copy and paste within a few minutes, instead of having to sit there and write new detection rules. You can also import your own detections. It's a flexible environment as well. So you can go in and change those. So it's not a black box detection rules. You don't have to worry about the behind the scenes of Snowflake. You don't have to be a tools expert. Snowflake is just working and scaling for you. And all you have to do is worry about what detections you want to deploy based on your environment. Once you can download and begin to query against these querying tables, that supports all of the different logging platforms. So it's really easy, whether it's Snowflake, your CrowdTrail data, or wherever it's coming from. And so you can basically set that between step 1 and step 2 up in about 15 to 20 minutes right there and get that data into a query format. And we have many out-of-the-box SQL rules that customers can download within minutes and actually fulfill their detection engineering purposes, right? And they can continue to run those 24/7. You can begin fulfilling your detection engineering purposes. And with that centralized search capabilities, you're gonna be able to search across all of those logging platforms. Working with a lot of SOC managers, you might have a lot of people that are trained, whether it's SQL, SPL from Splunk, or KQL, or whatever it might be. And a lot of times you have to rewrite those detection rules. People don't want to lose them, and that becomes very cautious. So we become that bridge to really be able to move those detections without worrying about what the language is behind it. And so it doesn't just disrupt your security operations in any kind of way, and you're not having to rip and replace because you're just adopting a hybrid approach. You're able to either just use it for new workloads or use new workloads and start to migrate some of your data over into Snowflake. With that, let's jump into the demo.
Yeah, I mean, as you jump into it, this architecture that you're showing here is really powerful. I love the fact that you are leveraging Snowpipe, Snowflake's automated ingestion service. That's great. And the ELT, or extract, load, transform process that you've built really makes this a scalable approach. So this is cool to see.
Thank you. We're excited about it. And just to wrap that all up in a nice little bow, you have your ETL, you send it to your S3, you use Anvilogic to parse, use the schema, localize, normalize, and then you can bring all of your detection content in, as well as get up and running with hundreds, thousands of our own out-of-the-box detections that you can also change if you need to. So I guess I could have just used that all the first time, but that's us in a nice little bow. And as we jump into the demo here, this is where users will land from an Anvilogic perspective. Think of this as your entire dashboard showing everything that's happening within your organization from a security standpoint. So it's all in one place. Anvilogic becomes that central point. So if you think of where the Snowflake data is, you're not having to worry about it. You're just letting that happen. And then we're bringing in normalizing. So this is your one single source of truth. So you have an overall maturity that's like a credit score for your SOC. You have all of the use cases, out of the box content, as well as whatever you've put in, and some machine learning and recommendations there. What's really cool and a really big thing for Snowflake customers and Anvilogic is the integrations that we have. So when you get up and running with the integrations, a lot of times you're having to build out or write a lot of rules or being able to pull in the different APIs or whatever. We actually do that automatically out of the box for the biggest ones that our customers want. We're always adopting more, but like I was saying, if it's Falcon with CrowdStrike, or maybe it's Carbon Black or Proofpoint, you're going to be able to go ahead and add those alerts, and we're going to pull all of the alerts in from those immediately. So all of that data that's going into Snowflake that's hard for legacy solutions, this is where that really enables you to scale and get the most bang for your buck.
Having these types of integrations really does, like you said, enable you to be that bridge.
Yeah, exactly. Then when we jump into what that maturity score is, right? Maturity scores mean nothing. Something on the dashboard of your car or a credit score means nothing unless it's tailored to you. What does your credit score say about you? So with a maturity score, it's unique to every individual customer, and it's based on their data feeds, their detection quality, and their productivity. And productivity is more of like risk insights and how well things are working or what you need to go focus on. But when we look at the data feeds, so that's really important because of there's so much data, you're not sure, maybe you might be missing some data feeds, maybe mapped to what you need to look at. You understand what is a priority based on your unique environment. So when we go into what those data categories might be, you can reprioritize based on what you're bringing into the organization. So let's say you might have some AWS CrowdTrail logs. You can go ahead and easily change that priority based on what you're needing to bring in. We also have a customer recently that was able to realize that they didn't have detections for specific data sources because they didn't know that they had those data sources coming in. So it's a really easy way to quickly see what data sources matter to you and your organization. So then when you're looking at the different tactics and techniques in the MITRE ATT&CK, which is a framework showing you the different areas of security tactics and techniques, then you're going to be able to see where you might need to focus your attention. So if your organization is having a lot of brute force attacks, then that's probably an area that you need to focus in a little bit more and prioritize. And that also comes into play with something like CrowdTrail. You might want to look at your cloud defenses.
So this is a pretty powerful platform. Can you tell me, when leveraging Snowflake, what are some of the specific features that really made an impact to that decision?
Yeah, so for Snowflake, being able to bring in a lot of data and scale it for users is really a big thing, right? I think that Snowflake is a look into the future from a cloud perspective. Security has a lot of hybrid models right now, and the world is pushing us towards the cloud. Security people, because there's so much already invested and those detections are already built, that's a lot of hours. So looking at something like Snowflake, making it more cost effective for Snowflake customers or our security customers. So there's legacy tools like a SIEM solution. You can't just rip and replace. You really need to start building that bridge over, and Snowflake is that perfect bridge to be able to lower the cost. SIEMs are very expensive and they might not deliver on everything you need. So something more like a modern SIEM where you're getting those capabilities with threat detection, incident response, as well as the capabilities of the SIEM within Snowflake is huge for customers.
That makes a lot of sense. I also hear a lot of folks talk about the native data sharing capabilities of Snowflake and how that's impacted both their application, but also the operations of their customers, right? Knowing that their data isn't being duplicated outside of Snowflake. Instead, they're able just to share the actual copy that they have already. Has that been an impact for Anvilogic?
Yeah, I think it comes into play more so when you talk about the cost effectiveness of how much data you're putting in. There's so many times on legacy logging platforms that you have too much data. You have data you don't need. Maybe there is duplication of data, so you're paying more for it. So when you bring in Snowflake, as well as being able to quickly normalize, of course, while we're searching and querying on Snowflake, that minimizes most of the time effort for people anyway, but without that duplication, it's able to scale and go a lot faster. There's also the aspect of data sharing and collaboration. I think among everyone that as we move to this new cloud future, it's a modern approach that we can all come together and kind of learn best practices for how we're doing this.
That makes a lot of sense. Another thing that I want to learn more about is, for your customers, over the next 6 to 12 months, what should they be most excited about on the Anvil roadmap?
Yeah, so some really cool things that we just came out with that I'd love to show you. We have this full armory of detection content and identifiers, which are singular rules, but then we also have the scenarios that are behavioral detection patterns. And we can get into that in a little bit because you can build those with no code yourself, which usually you need highly advanced detection engineers to do. Within this platform in the Armory, we have these trending topics. Now, the trending topics, when you hear your CISO come into the room, and I kid you not, if you go talk to any security practitioner, analyst level, SOC manager, guarantee you they've heard or had someone walk in and they saw something in the news and they were like, what happened here? Are we covered for it? And it's such this blanket statement. I mean, your organization might not even need to be covered for it if you don't even have those data sources. So we've actually directly in our platform given you the trending topics that are coming out daily with the recommendations and detections right there. So you can see that you're partially covered for it. And how are you partially covered for it? And is that important to you? And then you can go ahead and deploy those detections within a few minutes. Typically that takes our customers, without the Anvilogic platform, it could be days, it could be weeks, but you have to go and research. You have to go look at what these threats are. When that CISO walks in, everyone's head just hangs because they know their next 2 to 3 days are just stuck Googling and researching what is this threat group. Rather than coming in here saying, hey, here's the threat group, based on our priorities, based on our data, based on everything, all of our platforms, do we need to be covered? And if we're not covered, this is how we're going to solve that problem within minutes.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think the fact that it's so easy to and quickly to deploy one of these models or detections, as you call them, is pretty powerful. And I think a real game changer in this space.
It is. It really is. And then when we map those detections to the MITRE ATT&CK framework, that's where things get really fun. So you've set your priorities, and we went over there. We can show you that again real quick. So you're setting your platforms. You have your threat groups and what might matter to you. You have your different techniques that we're understanding where we're covered, where we're not, as well as your data categories. And then when we're coming and jumping over to the detection framework, you're going to be able to see this just mirrors over, and it shows you what do you need to be worried about. Maybe you have exfiltration followed by command and control, and there's a specific area where you're not covered for. You can go in and see that very clearly. Let's say you have some people that are learning still. There's a big skills gap in security. You can turn on the recommendations and quickly see what rules you might want to go ahead and go deploy. So this is where it gets really exciting for people. It's almost like a GPS navigation for your car. It's not a set it and forget it. It's you have the data in Snowflake. You've now normalized it. You can get all of the detections you want. Makes it super easy to move to Snowflake. And it makes it super easy to get all of these detections and all of the insights across Snowflake or any of your other platforms.
It's really cool to see the solution that Anvilogic has built. And I appreciate you showing me in detail all the different features of it. For the viewers today, if they want to learn more about you and about Anvilogic, where should they go?
Yeah, come to anvilogic.com. We also have info at Anvilogic. Check out the Armory. So if you go to our website, there's the threat research page. We're in it for the community. If you need help with detections, we also will give you detection code to get you started. We also do sometimes it's a 1, sometimes it's 2-week pilot, depending on what your desire is. But we can usually do that very quickly and show you something like how your CrowdTrail logs and Snowflake can build you detections within minutes.
That's great. And Jade, I want to say a big thank you for joining me here in the studio today. It's been great having you.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for having me.
And thanks to everyone watching. To see more interviews like this with tech leaders building applications on Snowflake, check out our other videos on YouTube and subscribe for new episodes. My name is Daniel Myers, and this has been another episode of Powered by Snowflake.